But the priests still had to figure out how to keep the new burial chambers safe from thieves. Their royal architects devised ingenious new tombs using radical new technology. They dug shafts up to 100 feet deep and placed burial chambers at the bottom. Then they got inventive with something easy to find in Egypt: sand.
These shafts are about 60 feet deep, and they were carved by the Egyptians once they had finally figured out how to bury themselves without having their graves robbed. And you get these shafts going all the way down straight through the bedrock and opening into chambers. At the end of the burial, these would have been filled up with sand and sealed so that there was no way into them unless you dug all the way down, 60, 80, sometimes even 100 feet.
Workers filled the main shaft with sand and placed the sarcophagus at the top. Then they dug the sand out from underneath the sarcophagus, and it gradually sank to the bottom. They poured the same sand back on top of it, making it invisible from the surface and impenetrable.
This huge sarcophagus that is here must have come down using a combination of sand hydraulics and ropes. What happens is that up here, above with this roof, there really is a big shaft. This lid must have been put on the top of the shaft when the shaft was filled with sand, and then gradually, as the sand was moved, the lid would have descended.
Tomb raiders still tried to tunnel in, but the shaft tombs fought back.
Sometimes tomb robbers thought that if they made parallel shafts, they would be able to sort of access the burial chamber. But the whole burial chamber would have been filled with sand, and so if the tomb robbers broke into it, all they would be faced with would be more sand, which would in fact pour into their parallel shaft and would in fact suffocate them.
The tomb raiders were buried alive. In fact, even today, gaining access to these tombs requires feats of engineering and lots of manpower. Archaeologists have only recently found their way in.
This is the bottom part of the sarcophagus, and this huge piece of limestone would have been lowered down as well. These tombs were definitely the most efficient way of keeping out tomb robbers, because of all the ones that we found, almost all but a handful have been found intact.
The shaft tombs worked, and so did the secret mummy cache in the valley cliffs.